Well, is Bitcoin in a bubble? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Well, if you got a question for me, please go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com. We have a couple of ways for you to get information. The first is just through the email, the Ask Bob section. If it's a question that can get an easy answer through the email, we'll try that. If not, if it's something that's got a lot of moving parts and has more than just a few scenarios we have to consider, then you can get a time on my calendar and we can have a phone call and get it squared away. Obviously, there's no costs or obligation to using the resources there at prudentmoney.com. It's all there for you. I want to talk a little bit about yesterday when I was talking about the National Association of Realtors and the changing of the commission rates and how realtors will get paid. We're going to go in great detail tomorrow with Carol Lee Gurney that's coming into the office. She talks about real estate with me from time to time, and she's going to talk about what it really means, where the media is getting it messed up, the message, and how it all works. I used that as an example for a smaller sign of things that are happening in our country to a bigger subject, which is what happens if we have a one world government? What happens if there's confiscation of bank accounts? What happens if there's a dollar crash, a new currency takeover? A coalition of nations to take control of a currency, hyperinflation, a depression. You may think I've gone completely off my rocker, but I haven't. I'm just talking about sensationalized gloom and doom that you're getting sent straight to your inbox. I hear about it. I get concerned emails about it. And a lot of the concerned emails are, what do I do? How do I protect myself? And the problem with these predictions is that, number one, they're very believable. We live in a day and age where any of this is believable. But the second thing is that you really have to know it's all about gloom and doom marketing. Nothing sells like fear, because if you look in these emails, we talk about this a lot. If you listen closely to these emails, or read these, if you listen closely to these videos about that, of the spread of gloom and doom, there's always a marketing pitch at the end to buy a book, to subscribe to a newsletter that's going to save you from all these problems. So nothing sells like fear. But, like I said, these are believable things that are happening. They could happen. But there's one problem that I believe prevents or makes it a low probability that we see this happen today. Obviously, anything can happen, as you know. But you can't change the financial landscape of this country for the worst without a deteriorating environment. The environment has to be pretty bad. And now, granted, you can look at the financial landscape at $35 trillion of debt. You can look at a lot of the things that politicians have passed that you don't agree with, and you can come to the conclusion that, the environment and definitely the culture of this country is already deteriorated so much. But I'm talking about deteriorating a lot worse than what we're seeing today. So I'll give you an example. Confiscation of bank accounts. That's something that you can't imagine happening here, but it's something that happened in Greece when they were having so many financial problems. And but you look at our country, and at least in the environment today, you can't see that happening because of the way things are set up, the way that you'd have a whole country of citizens reacting to something like that, and the setup that we have here, it's not something that you go, if you really think through it, that could really happen. Now, could it happen with a deteriorating backdrop of the economy, of the whole $35 trillion worth of debt? Absolutely, it could happen. But things would have to be worse, way worse, in order experiencing a deteriorating environment for this to happen. So how do we get to that point? And that's the one thing that I think is important from a stewardship standpoint, that we watch and see what ends up happening. Not necessarily listening to the talk, because the talk is just the talk, but actually where politicians are taking action, regulators are taking action, and then a little bit, I mean, yeah, what I talked about yesterday was what happened with the National Association of Realtors is a small step, but it's something worth watching, because this could alter how realtors are being paid. And I'll resist my rant that I do want to go on when talking about this, because I think realtors are so extremely invaluable to the real estate buying process. I mean, I can't even imagine trying to navigate waters today without having somebody. In fact, in the more difficult situations, they're without question worth their weight in gold. Of course, this is, and you'll see tomorrow when we talk about this, but this is more about a situation where a few bad apples have taken advantage of a commission schedule and taken advantage of the system. And of course, once they go through and they make all the changes so that to prevent that from happening, it ends up penalizing, or could end up penalizing, people who are doing it the right way, and people who are acting with integrity. So it takes but these little steps. We watch this. If you think back to 2008, I remember doing the radio show during the financial crisis and thinking, that's just not even so unbelievable. The government would be bailing out companies and bailing out banks, and now it's not even a second thought. But that's because our comfort level, quote unquote, has been for overregulation and government control has gotten a lot wider. There's more things we're comfortable with today than, say, pre-financial crisis. And that's an interesting thing, too, when you think about it. One of the things I've always talked about with the financial crisis that happened between 2007 and 2009 is that now we are on the road to the unknown. We're onto the path that we've never been on before. We've never been in a situation where the government takes over companies, and then as well chooses the companies that it's going to let fail, like Lehman Brothers. I mean, one of the biggest brokerage houses in the world, they just let them fail. They didn't try to bail them out. So we griped and complained about some of these things happening and expressed our concern, but it was a time of crisis, and the government did what they thought that they were needed to do. However, having said that, the government has a tendency to go too far, maybe push the lines, the boundaries of reality a little bit, see what else they can take and do, and enforce new laws. So keep all of that in mind. Watch for the little changes, the small acts. I would call what happened with the National Association of Realtors, even though if you're in the real estate business, you may not feel this way, but based on what I'm talking about, is a small act, and but definitely worth keeping an eye on to make sure that you are paying attention. And that is just so extremely, extremely important that we do pay attention. But like I said, tomorrow, Carol Lee Gurney will be on the program to talk about what's really going on with the National Association of Realtors, and maybe not so much what you're getting confused in the media. And I think it's an important conversation, and so glad she's going to be on with me. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Came across an interesting article that brought up the question, and I'm going to talk about this today on the program a little bit later, about Bitcoin and whether or not I believe that it's in a bubble or not. And what does that really mean to where is the real estate markets? It certainly does have a lot of characteristics of an investment bubble. And an investment bubble is where values of an investment, which would be real estate in this case, get so out of control to the point that it's like blowing up a bubble, and they get way out of control. They get way overvalued, and the bubble pops and everything goes in declines. You know, we had a big real estate bust in 08, 07, 08. But that was a little bit different of a situation than what we're looking at today. We're looking at a true supply and demand situation, but there are aspects of it that are definitely in an investment bubble. And it's one of the articles I came across was that the reality TV shows, which I haven't watched in a while, maybe they haven't had new ones on, but where they go in and they redo houses, they flip the houses, and they make a lot of money. And all you see is these real estate individuals making tons of money flipping houses, driving $150,000 cars and living it up. Now, not so much. A totally different situation, which we will talk about on the other side. This is Bob Brooks. You are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. We're up against a break, so stick around, and I'll be right back. Hi, this is Bob Brooks. What is the single most important verse on stewardship? Well, you can find that verse in two books, word for word, Matthew 6:24 and Luke 16:13. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Wow, what a powerful statement. On the Prudent Money Radio Show, we talk stewardship and how to stay in a committed, surrendered stewardship relationship with God. Listen to the Prudent Money Radio Show weekdays at 3 p.m.
This is Rob Randall, your host and teacher of the Invisible War radio program. The Invisible War is the study of God's Word on how to walk in Christ's victory in the spiritual battles we face against the powers of darkness. Join me every Sunday morning at 9 right here on KDKR and KYJC in Commerce, your station for life.
Hi, I'm Jan Markell, host of Understanding the Times. We're very excited to be a part of Bible School Radio. I hope you will join me Saturday, 10 a.m. for cutting-edge guests and the latest information to help you discern the truth, even the inconvenient truth. We'll help you understand our times and contend for the faith. That's Understanding the Times, Saturday at 10 a.m. right here on Bible School Radio or anytime at olivetreeviews.org.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. I was talking about the reality TV stars that flip houses and all these shows that show these individuals getting really wealthy. They're finding houses, they're flipping them, they're redoing them, they're selling them for way more than they paid for it. Now, this one individual that they talk about in this article has a portfolio of 91 properties he has not been able to sell, and he's got the stress of high interest rate debt supporting him, and that just sounds so much like a bubble situation. And there's the little characteristics of this investment situation in real estate today. The supply and demand is something that you can't argue, and I think that even though President Biden is trying to roll out proposals to affect and create affordable housing, I think it really comes down to you've got to let the market and give the market some time to create a realistic price for what these properties are worth. It does make me wonder, though, are we going to go by the way of Los Angeles, where, in California, home prices are way out of whack. But, this is a very unusual thing, but could be an investment bubble. But we'll have to probably see some more and see what happens with it. Definitely influenced by interest rates, which is a problem, and we'll see exactly what's going to happen with that and keep you posted. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com. You'll find a couple of ways to get a hold of me, and just depending on the length of your question and what you need, we've got resources for that. So no cost, no obligation. Just go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com, and send a question in. We'll get you taken care of. I had a long conversation about Bitcoin. And of course, you know, it's on a tear right now. And most of the thought about Bitcoin is that pretty classic investment bubble type characteristics, from the standpoint of this is going to make you rich, you just have to hang on. And of course, the one big prediction that I don't think is going to be the case, and I'll tell you why, is that they think it's going to be the next currency. And the client I was talking to, she was talking about her friends, a lot of her friends that are buying up Bitcoin, and they all believe, and they're just telling her, "You're crazy for not doing it," and this value of this is going to go through the roof, and they're predicting these outrageous quotes and prices and forecasts, and they, basically saying, "You're crazy for not doing it." And that is so classic an investment bubble. But I wanted to speak to a little bit, not on whether or not the Bitcoin's a good investment. I think it can be a good investment as long as it's a reasonable part of your portfolio, not the whole thing. Man, I'd hate to see anybody invest everything into that. That's extremely, extremely high speculative risk that can end really bad. But it can be a good diversification method, for a portfolio, and work out for you in that way. This idea, though, is going to make the greed factor, which is real easy to fall into, that's going to make you very, 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 very rich. I'd be careful about one thing that's part of that forecast, which is Bitcoin becoming the new cyber currency. You got to look at Bitcoin from the standpoint of before regulation and after regulation. Right now, I would call it lightly regulated, but the regulators will get in there and they will regulate Bitcoin. And so it's important to see what Bitcoin looks like after it's been regulated. That may change the opinion of a Bitcoin. I'm feel confident that Bitcoin will be a part of the conversation, will be part of the currencies that are offered as a way to do transactions. The thing that we would have to get away from is a situation where you've got $5,000 worth of Bitcoin in your bank account, and the next day you've got $3,000 because it moved down so quickly and so fast. You can't have that volatility in a currency. It's got to be very, very stable. So that's one thing. A second thing is the Federal Reserve Board has been working on what's called the digital dollar, and I think that will be the new currency. To sidestep over the Federal Reserve Board is almost impossible. So I don't think that's going to happen. And pretty much what the power of the Federal Reserve, whatever they want, is probably going to happen. So, excuse me, I'm thinking about this whole idea of the digital dollar that they've already apparently put the work in on, and they're going to roll it out, which I think is probably a 2 or 3 year time point. But that looks like something, and for one main reason why I think that will be the next currency and not something like a Bitcoin, is they've got to have 100% full control over the U.S. currency. And through a digital dollar, they will have full control over the U.S. currency. And with Bitcoin, I can't see that they would have full control. So, from a currency standpoint, I could see that the Bitcoin will be in a situation where you can use that for currency. I was trying to think what I was going to say about this. It left my mind, but now it's back. So if the regulators wanted to make it tough, they would make Bitcoin an unattractive way to use as a currency. They would make it tough for realtors. They would make it tough for retailers to take it. And just think about it. Really, whatever the Fed wants, the Fed probably gets. So if they want to make it tough to use, they can make it tough to use. They want to make it tough on real retailers. They'll make it tough on real retailers, and they won't want to offer it as a way of payment. And you remember in fact, I think he's going to be on here at some point here, maybe a couple of weeks. Dan Pilla has even talked about the tax consequences of Bitcoin and the concern that there's most people who own it don't understand the tax ramifications and could be making mistakes on returns and not reporting like it should, and which is a real concern. But I think, though, that the bottom line with anything, the currency that moves like this thing moves, I mean, it's a speculative investment for sure. And if you are a speculative investor, more power to you, and it's as good as anything to invest into. But just make sure you're investing into it for the right reasons and not a situation where you're just trying to get, depending on it to make you ultra rich, because there's countless stories of investment bubbles in the past that have not turned out so good. And that's something to keep in mind. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. One way that you can invest into Bitcoin without actually going the physical Bitcoin route is through exchange-traded funds that invest into Bitcoin. So basically, an exchange-traded fund is like a mutual fund, but it's something that you can buy and sell during the day. They happen to have one. I think they have about 10 investment exchange-traded funds that follow Bitcoin. The one in particular that I'm thinking about moves exactly with the price of the Bitcoin and is tied to the Bitcoin. So that's an easy way to invest into Bitcoin without going through the trouble of going more non-traditional routes to own it. So you might keep that in mind. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. In closing, I want to say one thing. No matter what's happening, it all spells risk, and we will have things that surprise us on your journey of being an investor, and things that you can't even imagine happen and are happening. Some things you expect to happen will happen. The bottom line is you've got to be ready for anything, and that's why it's so very important to have a strategy involved. Not just invest your money and let it go, but invest your money and plus a strategy that can help you in times that risk is really high, and help you grow in times when it makes sense to take risk. And it's not no strategy is perfect, but I think having a strategy is better than not having a strategy at all. So keep that in mind. And also, one more time, tomorrow, Carol Lee Gurney will be in to talk with me about what just happened with the National Association of Realtors and their settlement. and we'll go into the ins and outs of it, and so that you can have a better understanding. If you are in the market to buy a house and you don't understand what's all going on with these new regulations, hopefully you will by tomorrow, and we'll get you squared away. That's all tomorrow at prudentmoney.com. Hey, this is Bob Brooks. You have been listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. If you have a question for me, please go to the website, prudentmoney.com, and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.